The series comes to Indy. It's Pacers 2, Knicks 0. My Lord, who thought that would be the case? Can the Knicks recover? Do they need to make the big obvious change? Can the Pacers finish this one out quickly? We'll get to it all in a crossover. Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On NBA crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy weekend, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks, where we're talking about a 2-0 Pacers lead series. Can the Knicks recover? What's been going on? What will it take for the series to shift back towards a longer series that many hoped it could be? I'm Tony East. I host Locked On Pacers. Gavin Schall is here from Locked On Knicks. Gavin, I don't think anybody thought this would be where we'd be talking on this lovely Saturday.
No, it's surprising. I think the lingering feeling for Knicks fans, you and I were talking about a little bit before the show, but this is why you don't blow a 1 in 500 or 1 in nearly 1,000, depending on which tweet you're going off, chance to win the game in game. Or I guess I should say 444 out of 445 chance to win the game in game one. Because then you can fall victim to Pascal Siakam scoring 39 and Indiana torching you at the start of the fourth quarter. And you lose what is like a normal playoff loss, but that's probably your season because you didn't take care of business up by 14 with less than 3 minutes left.
Just ridiculous. It's just an absurd game. Yeah, we're a Brunson layup to go up 6 and early overtime away from that game, feeling way different. It's just crazy. Okay, so the biggest topic of the series to me now is, can the Knicks recover and save this? Because I would say this for any Knicks fan listening, Game 4 is going to be the one that I'll be interested in because the Pacers went up 2-0 in both of their first two series, and they lost Game 3 in both of those series, and they got smoked in Game 3 both times. Like, it's very possible to me a desperate Knicks team could win Game 3. Game 4 is where things could tweak. However, they still have to be better than they've been. Like you said, Game 2, the Pacers were just better. Like, there was no miraculous stuff about it, and that was including like an Haliburton game and like an game from some guys off the bench. Pascal was obviously amazing. It might not be that good again in the series. Regardless, the Knicks have to be better. There's some low-hanging fruit stuff I think we can all get to, but in general, where do you think the Knicks need to adjust or look for changes to keep up?
Sure. More optimized lineups is the simplest way to put it. And I give Tom Thibodeau, this is I'm gonna really be self-indulgent and pull off a tweet I made because I went into last night's post-game show and I wanted to give Tom Thibodeau some credit because I was like, all right, he did some stuff he's uncomfortable with, right? He ran Mitchell Robinson, maybe too long, but 16 minutes straight in the first half. He tried to close with Mitchell Robinson over Cat, which was like just not something that's happened very often this year. And then the feeling for me was that I've been Stockholm syndromed as a starving man taking meager crumbs of progress as a 5-star steak dinner, right? like that is what we're looking at because the reality has been what the reality is since Christmas. Like I said it on our preview pod, the Knicks starting lineup has been a negative since Christmas. The stat currently from a buddy of mine, Jeff Rasmussen of the Hot Hand Theory podcast, the Knicks starters by net rating, the worst starting 5 of any conference finalists since 2008. They have just been terrible in the regular season. They've been terrible in the playoffs, and yet Tom Thibodeau doesn't go away with them. He didn't close the game with them, at least until the very end. So that was something, I guess. But there's just not a lot of trust in Deuce McBride, and there was trust in Mitchell Robinson. He wasn't the same guy in the second half that he was in the first half. But Deuce, I don't think Deuce played a great game yesterday, and yet they're a positive when he's on the floor. He's a plus 14.6 net rating for the playoffs. Mitchell Robinson has a plus 10.3 net rating for the playoffs, and yet they continue to go back to the starting lineup. They play it for the first 8 minutes of the third quarter. I don't know if that's what lost them the game because the lineup to start the fourth was somehow even worse, but you're not getting what, in my mind, is like the most obvious optimized version of a Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson-led team, which is Deuce in for Hard, and you're playing 5 out, and you're actually getting the benefits of everything Karl Anthony Towns brings offensively because you know you're gonna have to live with the drawbacks, and there are some major drawbacks of playing Cat defensively against the Pacers, right? He at times he looked a little bit better switching a lot, but there are still times, like especially with the Indiana, runs him through multiple actions where he is just not going to have a chance. You might as well go the other way and try to outscore Indiana or try to bully ball them with Mitchin, which the Knicks did successfully in the first half, not quite as much in the second half. But there are two clear ways to win. When Josh Hart is out there, you're splitting the baby and you're getting the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, the highest compliment I can give to any Knicks player is that Mitchell Robinson has changed the Pacers rotation, right? They are subbing in a different big man when he comes in the game. Tony Bradley got dusted off for a real playoff game and did okay because of Mitchell Robinson kicking butt on the glass and setting good screens and being a lob threat and all this stuff. And the Pacers are like, oh, crap. And you don't feel that with other groups. I know you know these numbers, but for those who don't want to look them up or don't know, for the playoffs, the Knicks starting five is minus 50, just raw. Like 300 minutes, they've lost them by 50. In just this series, they're minus 29. That's insane, right? That's spotting 14.5 points a game to the other team by doing that. And it's not that simple, but like they're just the Pacers starters have destroyed that group. And if you want to go back and watch the minutes to see part of what makes it so challenging is the Pacers are doing what a lot of teams have done differently. What I mean by that is, and you explained this well before the series, all these big men would guard Hart and the wing would guard Cat and the big man's guarding nobody. They're doing that with the person guarding Hart. It's just not a big. It's Andrew Nembhard, who's just like everywhere and blowing up all these actions and away from the Josh Hart because he doesn't care. And then every time Hart cuts or meanders towards the paint, he goes back and tags him for a second, make sure nothing's going on. And it's hard for anyone else to do anything, even though Brunson's playing very well and Cat's had great moments and like OG made shots to start game 2 and Mikel's had that little turnaround going at times, especially because Haliburton's been on him a lot, but like it's not as easy. And then the second Mitch comes in, the Pacers are subbing and Deuce McBride is a threat. Like every scramble situation, somehow he's 2 feet away from the play wide open for 3. Yeah. Right? He's a good player. And so those lineups have been good. Clearly, if what have they lost these games by combined? 5 + 3, 8. So they're plus 13 or something with non-starters. I might have gotten that wrong, but it's close to that.
And that's the whole season, right? It's not just 2 games. You can't say sample size, right? We have every version of sample size that this lineup doesn't work.
So it feels like I felt this way in the Bucks series, and the Bucks eventually did do this too, that a change is coming in some way. The Pacers would obviously respond with their own rotational shifts, but even if they don't change the starting five, they have to play it much less to me. And that's obviously coming from the other team's perspective, but it's been a big advantage for the Pacers to start off quarters so strong.
Yeah, we're obviously on the exact same page with that. Brunson and Deuce just as a duo has been fantastic together. I feel like it really opens up the floor for him. The Knicks almost never run this, but I'm sure you saw a lot of it with the Cavs. Like it opens up, like if you are hunting Haliburton, he's on Deuce all of a sudden, you can just run like pick and pops to target Haliburton and get Deuce open threes if the Pacers linger on the ball versus what the Knicks have been getting out of that at times when they leave 2 on the ball, which is like that late Josh Hart layup you see, that late Mikal Bridges fadeaway, which obviously 2 points is 2 points. That's great. But you might even be getting like a more efficient shot there. And to your point, like it is just, I feel bad for Josh Hart because he's a great player, obviously plays as hard or harder than pretty much anyone in the NBA. And it's not that like he is individually sucking. It's just that in this context, if he's going to be guarded that way, the Knicks offense, or let's just say it like this, if Cat and Brunson are on the floor, the Knicks offense has to be so good that it's not really tenable to say, all right, well, the solution is to just put Josh in the action or have Josh shoot 1,000,000 threes. Like you are just not going to score with the Pacers that way. So get Deuce McBride out there. And honestly, like even though Hart's been fine defensively, and I actually think if you are going to keep starting him, I might give him some time on Haliburton because I think he's looked good the few times he's gotten that matchup. I think Deuce might be an upgrade over Mikal Bridges guarding Tyrese Haliburton. Like he can give Haliburton a little bit of a taste of the Pacers' own medicine, pressuring him full court. He's just flat out a better screen navigator than Mikal Bridges is, can actually fight through them and get over so you don't have to switch sometimes. And I think can pester him and bother him on the ball a little bit more than Mikal has, because we've seen in just those like 5-out isolation type moments, like Haliburton has pretty much had his way with Mikal. So I just don't really see a world where Deuce isn't an upgrade. The big question is, like, does Tom Thibodeau make a change even at this somewhat desperate moment? He's always slow to change. Sometimes he does adjust like later in series, but the starting lineup for whatever reason is just completely sacred to the guy. And people have been talking about this, asking about it all year, and he's never budged. So I can't say with any like clarity that that's going to happen.
Any strategic? For my own final thought on that, wouldn't shock me if Mitch became the 5th starter, just because one that seems very, for lack of a better term, Tibbsy.
The East is big, man. The East is big.
And like when he played 16 straight minutes and they went very well the whole time, and then I'm like, isn't that his minutes per game usually? And the answer is yes. I was like, okay, like Tibbs loves this guy, right? Like he understands what his impact is. And Cat's played the 4 before. It wouldn't shock me if that was the eventual answer, even though I agree with you that Deuce would make a lot of sense as well. Any other strategic changes you can see the Knicks making as this goes to Indy?
It's a good question. They definitely hunted Haliburton more. I think Zach Lowe had the number that like Brunson defended 34 pick and rolls in the first game. And Haliburton,
the point guards get across that court and go, where is he? Where's the other point guard?
100%. But in game one, like Haliburton defended 20 less than Brunson did. So I think that was something the Knicks noted and corrected in game two. They certainly, I would almost start every action with that. And the issue again is like it does minimize Cat's role a little bit if you're just hunting Haliburton with Brunson, and it maybe continues to put a little bit too much on Jalen Brunson. The other guys don't feel involved, and that maybe affects them defensively a little bit. That's a little bit of a soft science here, but I would keep going to that. I would keep getting the ball to Mikal Bridges in this situation. I thought, even though he shot 8 for 16, I thought he left a lot on the table in this game, and there were a bunch of good looks he missed. It felt like when he just drove straight at Hallie, like there was one play in particular where I know you mentioned Haliburton's a better defender this year, but it just didn't seem like he could keep Bridges away from the rim, and he's just longer than him, and he should be able to finish over him. Like I think there are a lot of versions of that can work. I do think for the Knicks to continue to be effective doing it, it just has to be quicker hitting and more decisive. Like you'll see a lot of times where Mikal will just sort of fade 2 feet away, and Nesmith is just able to recover right back onto Brunson. And that's fine if the goal is to just like reposition Mikal to go at Haliburton, but then you're just sort of wasting time. Ideally, continuing on that thought, the Knicks would attack earlier in the shot clock. Again, like under Tibbs, that is just sort of like, I don't know if that's a bug or if it's a feature. Like it just seems like what they prefer. And obviously you're trying to limit Indiana's possessions to some extent, but I do think they could be a little bit quicker hitting. Like Brunson can occasionally attack those gaps. I would vary up your pick and rolls. Like you can, there are other ways to go at Hallie, right? It doesn't always have to be Brunson involved. You could have OG come up and set a screen and try to get Hallie switched to try to bully him. Like that is the biggest thing defensively. I don't want to say they're optimized because they're not executing this game. I do think mostly switching worked better for them in game two. And I thought their defense, mostly because like Mitchell Robinson was just special after coming in. I thought their defense was really good in the first half, and it was because they were executing the switching, and then they had Mitch at the rim as insurance. But I would stick with that, with the exception of how they guard TJ McConnell. I don't know if you want to dive deeper on that next segment, but there were about 4 plays, one in the second and then 4 in the fourth, where the Knicks, some combination of Payne, Mitch, Cat, and Mikal just completely botched the coverage. They were constantly going over screens on him, and it was a 13-4 Pacers run that I think was probably the defining stretch of this game.
TJ McConnell, every opposing team. I agree with you on the Brunson screen thing. It just stands out to me so much. There were 2 plays in a row at the beginning of the fourth quarter of game one. Mathurin was guarding him. That ran the exact same ball screen 2 plays in a row. He scored both times with the same shot. Mm-hmm. Not a Ben Mathurin thing. It's just like, okay, do that. Like, just do that.
Doesn't have to be complicated. It shouldn't be complicated for the Knicks. Yeah.
And one of the differences between last year and this year is like Hartenstein would make all these short roll decision-making plays that the Pacers were like really struggling to kind of figure out how to deal with. And Cat's not as good as that. He's Cat's a better player. He's a great shooter. It's just like, it's not the same. It's different pressure points for the Pacers, and they haven't been able to just spam Towns as the screener. The Haliburton screener hasn't created as many advantages unless they're not doing it as much as it feels like maybe they should to us. Let's talk some Pacers coming up here on this crossover episode of Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks. Before we do that, let's talk about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing every night, delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the big moments? How could tracking their trends help you build your next bet? What would it look like to combine prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds? That's all for you to find out. If you go to FanDuel, if you have a read on who's heating up, back it up with the same-game parlay, and you could turn $200 in bonus bets into your account if your first $5 bet hits. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back crossing it over on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks. Thanks for hanging out with us on the weekend. Gavin, I agree with your assessment of some defensive small things the Knicks could do. I wonder how much the Pacers will continue to go away from Mathurin. They didn't play him at all in the second half. Ben Shepherd was playing pretty good. I'm interested in your thoughts on that the switching more thing, because partially one, it didn't happen a lot, but like part of the Pascal Siakam offensive package is like, oh, there's a small guy on me. Great. I turn, I shoot, I score. Myles Turner's gotten a lot better at that. And I wondered last series if the Pacers would pick on those kind of plays more. But what ended up happening is the Cavs switched more and more. And then it was Jared Allen who got picked on a lot. I think there is advantages to switching more often. The Pacers sometimes get bogged down by that. The Bucks really got him in game 3 doing that. But eventually you get in a sticky spot with matchups that I think there is a right amount for the Knicks to do it. They were close to it in game 2. But you're always it's how the series is. like no one's guarding their own man. You're just giving up something matchup-wise that the Pacers are so happy to pick at like right away when they identify it.
Yeah, it's the least of all evils, right? Because Cat and drop proved to just be totally untenable. It wasn't tenable during the season. Him and McHale just never worked that out, and that's mostly on Cat. I think Caitlin Cooper had a stat that blitzing Haliburton, like the Pacers points per possession on that is better than the best pick and roll offense in the NBA, if I'm remembering that correctly or something. So that's probably not an option. So I think you switch and you live with it. And the thing is, like, I think the Knicks did like fairly well in those switches. And a lot of times there were a few different times where Cat like would just bail someone out. He played great defense on Pascal, and then he fouls him as the shot clock's going off for a 3. Plays great defense on Haliburton. Haliburton is taking like a fadeaway, shifting to his left shot with the second left on the shot clock, and Cat shoves him, and like just live with the shot. Like OG fouled Pascal on a 3. And like, I know that's 3 possessions, but like in a game where you got it to 110, 109 before you started fouling at the end, like those could be the margins you win on. So I think they just need to be a little bit cleaner on those. I thought Mitch looked great switching on Haliburton. I don't think Haliburton got a lot of good stuff on him. Like Mitch obviously blocked him the one time. There was another time in the 4th where like he bobbled the ball. Mitch shut down Pascal on a switch. And again, with Mitch, to your point earlier, maybe I've been asking like, all right, can we just play this guy a little bit more? And the answer against Indiana is like, maybe not, because just their pace, like to your point, like how many actions he has to cover, how much ground he has to cover defensively, how reliant they are on his offensive rebounding, like maybe 23, 24 minutes is the upper limit there. But I think if the Knicks do get him on the floor for that time, and even Deuce for that matter, you're generally forcing a better shot. I think one of the flaws in the Knicks decision-making, and like it's a fair debate on this, is you saw at times them like creep back into some of the overhelping from the Celtics series from game 1. Like I think at times with Indiana, you just have to live with the fact that they're going to get it too, right? And we saw like when Haliburton drove Brunson late, Mitch comes out from the 3-point line, Haliburton sprays it, Turner gets that corner 3, and it's like, yeah, he's probably going to make the layup, but you're scoring at a high enough rate that if they just get to that right matchup and the weaker defender gets beat, concede the 2 sometimes, I think is something I would advise the Knicks to start doing.
Yeah, they've been struggling with it. Both teams, I think, have struggled with defense at times in this series because of just all the things they have to think about giving up or not giving up. The Pacers had the same problem you just described in game 1, where it's like fouling Cat at the end of a long possession or not getting a rebound several times. Yeah. It's like if you're defending for 40 seconds and then you're still giving up points, like it's just brutal for your team and your game. And these are the margins that matter so much. Like as much as it feels like the Pacers are in control because they're up 2-0, like we're talking about a 5-point win and a 3-point win. Like this is not some dominant series so far. So all those little things add up to big things in these moments. One thing I'm looking at is the Pacers that they clearly rotationally to start identified last game. They went to Shepherd more than Mathurin, especially in the second half. If they're doing that, I get a lot of why they're doing that. He can pressure Brunson. He can run around like a maniac on defense. He made 2 threes. That's great. If they're trying to get the shooting out there, I'd bring Shepherd in earlier as a first sub, not because I think he should be in earlier necessarily, but that allows them to bring Nesmith in with the second unit groups with Siakam plus the bench. And then if they're doing what you said, where they're actually making life harder on McConnell, at least there's more space elsewhere. And then TJ can get to his little flip shots that every fan base says only happens against them, even though they happen against everybody, or he gets to the rim, or just that would optimize those groups a little bit more because Nesmith has been shooting so well for the whole season and really, really well in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Not that Shepard's a bad shooter, but I think that we've seen the Nesmith-Siakam combo do well with the second unit before. I think they should go back to Mathurin and keep trying that. He did not play particularly well in game 2. Not that he was bad, but they, like we saw early in the 4th quarter, that run you already talked about, they had Turner and Nesmith out there with the second unit. Like that's as much spacing as you can put next to that bench group, and it worked really well. It would not shock me if they tried to find ways to do that a little bit more often. as the series progresses, because that spacing has put a lot of pressure on the Knicks. And what you're saying, when they overload the help, like, look, someone's wide open somewhere, either for a three or just to like walk to the basket. That happened way too much. The Knicks just like lost guys a lot. That was really weird.
Yeah, I can go through them. I mean, part of it also, and this is on Tibbs. Payne, this is like the first time I think since game 1 against the Pistons he played like a fourth quarter minutes, which is crazy. And you're asking this group that has very little time together and just has like a target in Cat to do like execute complicated stuff. And you give Rick Carlisle credit, right? He's like, great, put him in the blender, and the Knicks over and over again don't hold up. I mean, even going back to the second quarter, you see Cat and Deuce, and this is the issue where Tibbs I think feels like he has to really dumb it down for this team, which is surprising in some ways because they do have smart defenders. I think it's more so a product of the fact they never really switched everything over the course of a full game the entire regular season, and that falls back on Tibbs. But like 40 feet from the basket, they're switching like Cat and Deuce onto TJ McConnell. And it's like, why? He's not Steph Curry. He's not pulling up from 35 feet. And TJ, of course he cooks Cat for a layup. That's not on Cat. He should not have to guard TJ McConnell in that much space. Like you head to the fourth quarter, like McHale could just go under on a pick and roll, and Cat doesn't want to get blown by again. So that's when TJ gets to his left elbow. Like literally the next play after that, Cat hedges onto TJ, who's obviously, again, not a threat to shoot a pull-up three. Mitch has to cover Turner and Pascal because two are on the ball. I think it was Shepherd throws a great pass fake, gets Mitch to bite. Cat is nowhere near in the realm of getting back. Turner gets a dunk. The one after that, Mitch hedges onto TJ. He hits Myles over the top for like a midi banker. Again, no need to hedge there. Next play, does it again. TJ draws two. The Knicks almost look like they're playing zone. McHale and Mitch both stick with the ball. Cat falls asleep off ball. It's a Ben Shepherd three. Final one, though. Mitch is on Pascal as TJ drives. Campaign, inexplicably, he leaves Ben Shepherd to two-hand shove Pascal Siakam. Mitch interprets that as a switch. They both go with Shepherd. Pascal nails a wide open three. So it's like, and I'm sorry for people who obviously don't have the tape in front of them if that was confusing. I say all that to say is like these guys are not on the same page. They haven't played together all year. And Tony, it goes back to what we were talking about before the series started. This was my single biggest concern. Like the Knicks at times struggle to guard just like simple two-man actions. Like how are you doing it when there's multiple screens, there's a smart ball handler, and there's 5 shooters on the floor? And it's just kind of broken their brains. And Indiana has just had these stretches where the Knicks don't have answers for that. And it's won them the series so far.
That last Siakam three you mentioned was just like, what was that play? In that fourth quarter. And that was when the Pacers broke it open, right? They rode that run for the rest of the game. Yeah, that was it.
The other thing sorry.
It has to be frustrating on the Knicks side. I'm getting Mitch out of ball screens as the Pacers. They wanted to go double drag with Mitch as one of the guys defending a screener so bad he would just go onto the ball handler, and that wasn't enough of an advantage. Stop doing that. Just get that guy away from the play, especially if it's Turner. He can space. It's not that much better than just doing a single ball screen. And I don't know. I didn't feel like that was very important. And I think if you're the Pacers, I would want to see more of Cat's. If Cat's on defense, his man screening more, but Mitchell's man screening less. So that is obviously tricky strategically to just completely flip who the screener is. But and Siakam was getting smalls on him all the time from these switchers too. The right guy has to be setting screens for the Pacers. And I felt like at times in that game, especially with Mitch, it was like, that's not how they should be attacking this specific coverage from the Knicks. That seems like a lot of belly aching for a relatively comfortable win when they hit 43% of their threes, but little changes can help here and there, obviously.
Yeah. What did you think in the first half? Were you more so impressed by the Knicks defense, or did you think the Pacers offense was flawed? Because like I was like kind of tracking, and they kept updating on TNT. Like what Siakam had 21 of their first 31. Haliburton scores for the first time with 2 minutes left in the first half. There were just all these things leading me to feel like, man, the Knicks should be up by like 10 at halftime at least. And like, and how freaking dominant like Mitchell Robinson was. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but like I've just never seen someone like, and it's not just this series, right? It's been a little less so against the Pistons, but absolutely it was true against the Celtics. Like someone just make a team full of grown men, like big physical dudes look like boys out there. Like it is, at least in the first half, it's ridiculous. And yet you're only up by 3. And like, to me, that is the series in a microcosm. It's that it doesn't, and honestly, the next season in microcosm, it feels like they have these big advantages. And it just, because they do some stupid stuff and they don't play optimal lineups, like it doesn't seem to manifest on the scoreboard. But that's from the Knicks' perspective. Did you think Indiana was leaving a lot on the table? And did you think there were like kind of clear halftime adjustments that fixed that? Or what was your view on it?
Boy, do I have a lot of answers for you in just a moment, Gavin. Back here on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks. Yes, to answer your question, I felt like if you're the Pacers, you felt the opposite at the half of the first two games. The first game, they were like up for a lot of the first quarter and like closed at halftime, but they were like shooting the snot out of the ball. It's like, man, we have to shoot that well to be close. That doesn't feel very good. Whereas in the second game, yes, Siakam was incredible. Like he had half of their first 52 points. That's insane. And they were right there. It's like they're not even playing that well, and they're right. Like the opposite feeling, I think, probably persisted for them. And in the second half, a lot of stuff was better. They finally unlocked Haliburton getting to the rim with some floaters. I think that was a big change. I think some of that's just kind of him, figuring out where to get his feet set in the paint to get shots he likes. Mitch came in earlier, but he wasn't as impactful on defense in that half. And Nembhard's been good the whole series, right? They have enough ball handlers to figure stuff out. But I think how they felt at halftime of the games has been opposites, and they obviously emerged from both. But that was a really interesting thing to me. That the first game, what were they shooting 80% for like 8 minutes? And I look and I'm like, it's 32-28. Like if you're shooting 80%,
I could not understand how the Knicks were up after the first quarter. Like it didn't make any sense.
They also shot well though. The other thing in that second half of game 2 though was the Pacers had 7 turnovers in game 1. They had 7 in the first half of game 2, and then only 3 in the second half. They've done really well with that. They have to, because they're going to lose the rebounding battle. They've lost at both games. And so when they had all those turnovers in the first half, if they just clean that up, 4 extra possessions in that side of a game goes a long way. We've talked about all these little tiny margins that have mattered. That was another one too. That's not even an adjustment. That's just like hit the play better button and go do it. And they did it. And so I think that was a big part of it too. Just we're talking like generically, and obviously they made little micro adjustments. Every team does it at halftime of every game, but those are the things that stood out as like they needed this to be better in the second half, and it was.
Yeah. Well, last thing for me, we talked about it pre-show, but the Knicks, I think, just need more from OG Anunoby, not necessarily offensively, but I think he has had, by his standards, a poor start to this series defensively. And I'm not even really looking at Pascal scoring 39 because it felt maybe I should watch the whole game back for like the second and a half time. But like it didn't feel like most of those.
If Siakam flips in a tough fadeaway 18-footer over you, like okay. Like he's really good at that. Like I think the Pacers are happy with that shot, but like if you're the Knicks, you got to be like, okay, that's fine. Like that's a great shot,
Oh yeah, you live with tough. I think you just live with twos. Period.
Not tough for him, but it's like a harder shot in general.
Sure, especially with OG Anunoby on you, right? Like 7'2" wingspan. Like that's all you can really hope for. But I think in terms of just like event creation defensively, like and that is to Indiana's credit. It is to Haliburton's credit for just being like an all-time great high volume, low turnover point guard, right? But like the Knicks have to find ways to get out in transition. They can even take some stuff out of the Pacers book. Like the one time where I think quote unquote played McConnell correctly was after they subbed in the fourth quarter and they just leave him. They say, go ahead, shoot a wing 3. And he misses it short. Mikal leaks out. Brunson hits him on a Hail Mary, right? Like more of that. We've seen that in fits and spurts from Mikal. Josh Hart has not gotten out in transition very often. Some of that is just that obviously when Indiana shoots great and you're taking out from under the basket, unless you're the Pacers and you just throw an 80-foot pass to Obi Toppin, you're not going to get a ton of transition off of makes, but like anything to get OG going in transition. I already mentioned him screening a little bit more with Mikal, try to get Hallie switched on him. I think that is like free throws for OG all day. And like, you can also try to rough up Hallie a little bit by doing that. But like, it just, I have not felt him much this series. And then with Cat again, like if he's going to be out there, like he better be involved and you better make those minutes count because in game 1, right, that was a playoff career high from him. And then this game, like he's still really good. Like he had that personal 9-0 run in the second quarter. But if Indiana is just going to pick on him and they're going to score hyper efficiently, and I think they're somewhere in my notes, Indiana, when Cat was defending, they shot 50% from 3. Oh, sorry. When Cat was on the court, they shot 50% from 3 compared to 33% when he was off the court. For the series, they're shooting 48% from deep when Cat's on the court to 30% when he's on the bench, right? So if Cat's going to be out there, please play 5 out. It doesn't have to be with the starters, but if it's not with the starters, have a quick hook on that and then exclusively play him with Deuce the rest of the game because he needs to be maximized. He needs to be leaned into if you're going to have to live with the pain on the other end of the floor.
You mentioned transition defense. Is either team playing good transition defense? It's been so bad in this series. Made shot, missed shot. The ball's flying up the floor. a good shot is coming. It's remarkable.
By the Knicks standards, like this is it. It almost, I think, because Indiana is so good in transition, it almost looks better for the Knicks by comparison because they're giving up layups instead of threes where they just don't cover anyone. Like Indiana's almost scoring too fast for the Knicks transition defense to look as bad as it's looked at times this year.
The funniest one was the game 1 play where Hart leaked out. They got the 2-on-0. MSG psyched because Hart dunks, and then immediately Obi Toppin like instantly scored. And everybody's like, what just happened? How was he that open already?
That happened again in game 2. That was like the Hart layup. That was the play I was talking about. Haliburton just says, great, chuck it, Obi layup. Like, kills you.
It's hard. We talked about it before the series, right? It's hard when you're cross matching to find your guy sometimes. You're like, but just it hasn't even felt like it's that to me. It's just like someone scores and they're like, turn around, get back, and then all of a sudden like, oh, the ball's over my head. Okay, well, that's 2 points. It's just.
And anytime Cat shoots a layup, it's a layup for Indiana on the other end.
I think that the two sounds I've heard from fans the most in the series are like groaning when Nesmith hits another tough shot, and a lot of get back on defense. A lot of that one from people around me.
Yeah, like they don't know. I mean, maybe they don't. But, all right, I think I'm getting too negative. We can wrap this up. But
yes, you have a game to cover, the finals, conference finals, in the West, game 3 tonight. Who would these teams play if they win? Will the Pacers keep this up in Indy? We'll keep you updated on Locked On Pacers and Locked On Knicks. You can find Gavin in the Locked On Knicks podcast at Locked On Knicks. I'm on Twitter at Tony Tyrese. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you after game 3.